Oh, okay. So this is The True Cause of Unhappiness by Pema Chödrön from her book How We Live is How We Die. The true cause of our unhappiness is not outside, but inside. Our propensities and negative emotions are what ruin our days, not our supervisor or our nemesis. The Buddha taught three main methods for working constructively with our kleshas, which I think of as three steps to courage. He presented them in order of increasing subtlety and profoundness. The first is refraining from reacting. This is based on the sense that there is something negative about the emotions, so we should do whatever we can to avoid making things worse. If we approach refraining as a means of shutting down, it can easily turn into that. But if we approach it as a way of opening up and becoming more allowing of whatever arises, then this practice will serve us well. I think refraining from speaking and acting as becoming familiar with the transformative energy of the emotions. Since our mind tends to get stuck in repetitive patterns easily, we usually react to new experiences in the same predictable way that we always have. We reinforce old habits by repeating them over and over. But on the other hand, if we allow a mindful gap, we won't react in the usual way, and we can allow the experience simply to pass through us. My experience is that allowing a space before we react predictably is magical. For me, it's what allows for making friends with myself, what allows for clear seeing and a change of direction. Without this mindful gap, without refraining, we just stay stuck in old patterns, wondering yet again, how did I get into this mess? The practice of halting or refraining is the most basic way of working with our kleshas. Don't speak, don't act, get in touch with what we're feeling. It's the first method we need because when we perpetuate our storylines or act out, we don't have the mental space to apply the other two practices, transforming the emotions and using them as a direct path of awakening. It's a good one.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Uh, what are kleshas?
A klesha is like, it's a Buddhist term that describes sort of like any kind of obstacle or kind of pattern that you're grappling with.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make more sense now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the
okay.
whole thing made sense anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the exact, uh, okay, so
Good question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna close and come back on,
Okay.
I
All
think.
right.
I don't know what I'm doing here. Ah, look at that. I didn't have to close. I'm here. Very
Fantastic.
okay. Good, good,
All
good.
right. So does anybody want to speak to what came up for them? Because for me, as you guys, most of you know, or many of you know, that pause is pretty much what she's talking about, my version of pause, and how pause can really impact your life in so many profound ways. Um, by taking a moment, by unplugging for a moment, by short circuiting the natural impulse for a moment, which can shift that moment. But anybody else want to speak to that? Or do you already pause?
Hi, my name is Lori. Since taking several of your classes, I have used pause and could have used it a lot better last night, but that's okay. And I've used it quite a bit with my children, especially because they're the ones that really know how to push my buttons. And rather than letting my buttons get pushed by them, if I pause, it helps me not take it personally or not react in a defensive manner, which is what I usually do. I usually get really defensive, especially with my children. And it has helped me enormously in, it kind of reframes it in my mind. So I don't get so crazy, so, upset. So everything. And that doesn't mean I don't always still get upset, but I don't have to react to it in an upsetting way.
I love that.
Helped me. It's helped me a lot.
It's like short circuiting that normal pattern that you've had or learned
Yes,
and kept
absolutely.
perpetuating. Yeah. And it's softer and it allows for more relationship and more connection.
It really does. Because I'm not overreacting based upon emotions from my past, from my traumas, from everything that's happened to me in my lifetime. It helps me stay um, within the issue at hand rather than bringing in my old baggage with me.
It is. I love that. It literally pauses you.
Yeah.
And then you get to have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Because I want to make sure that, I think she speaks about it, but by refraining doesn't mean that you're choking yourself or not speaking your truth, because it can almost feel like that if we refrain. And and my interpretation is to take the pause and reflect.
Yeah, speaking of that, Janice, in practicing the pause, that has come up for me where I have felt like, okay, am I stifling my own voice? Am I not saying um like what I need to say here? Um and then but usually with time, with taking that pause, it becomes clear to me. Sometimes my pause is a day or more. But sometimes the pause is maybe 10 minutes or something. It totally varies. But either way, if I take the pause, then I have that chance to determine that within myself, even if I am confused at first. It has always been very helpful for me.
Yeah, I like that. And it allows you the time to really know what you are trying to say so people can hear it or you can speak it more clearly and honestly.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarita, and I really liked what was said by the first woman. I'm sorry, I do not remember your name. Tell me,
Lori.
Lori. um, about the pause allowing you to not take things personally. I thought that that was right on the money, especially when you're talking about interacting with your kids and the horrible, mean things that teenagers can say, and especially when I was in early recovery, listening to that, man, that would just set me off. when they would attack me. And now with the pause, I can see, and experience and practice, I can see, like you said, it's never about you. It's about the person, it's what the person is who's speaking. That's who it's about. And the speaker could take a pause and not attack somebody, because it's never about that other person. It's always about the speaker, So I just like that idea of the pause giving you time to think in that way, because not taking things personally, it's one of the 4 agreements. It's like, one of the pillars of getting along in life. So I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because it is true. If we pause, we can recognize, like Lori and Sarita are saying, that it's not about you. It's about the projection of whatever the other person's experiencing. And it gives you that opportunity to not take it on.
And you're not, and so for me, I've carried a lot of guilt and remorse and shame because of my addiction over the years, especially with my children. So when they say something to me, instead of reacting out of that guilt and remorse and shame, I can pause, actually hear what they're saying, and they may not be saying something that's the way I was interpreting it out of my own issues.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important for me, especially because because of the baggage that I carry, that I'm slowly getting rid of.
Shedding.
Shedding, exactly. So,
Yeah.
a lot of times they'll, especially my youngest daughter who lives here, she'll say something to me, and I can interpret it in the way that she means it, rather than the way I would internalize it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big shift for anybody, and it allows you to have a relationship with her instead of yourself.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share?
I'll jump in and share that the pause way that I've kind of been looking at it, I'm just peeling an orange, is that it allows me time to decipher what matters.
Mm.
In plain, simple terms. Like there's just, in every instant, there's so much coming at us, and the pause is like, wait, what information is important here? Is it my emotions? No. And it allows me to kind of step outside of it. That's all.
Simplicity. Love it.
I use pause at work all the time. I'm a teacher, and so we always have those parents, and we get those parents' emails or student emails. And instead of, I will not respond right away because emotion takes over instead of logic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I use that even with my administration, with all of it. But I found that, and it's not just work emails, it's any texts or emails. If I respond right away, I often respond out of quick emotion rather than thinking things through and seeing what they probably are really saying and what I'm interpreting it as. And, or finding a way to respond back in a way that diffuses situations instead of allows situations to get more out of control. I'm looking to diffuse as much as possible.
Yeah, I love that, Kristen. And the irony is you're also learning about you in that pause.
Yeah.
You know, it's you getting to learn about you, even though it benefits you in the work setting or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Because we get time to reflect on ourselves and make choices. It's a beautiful way to make a choice.
It allows me to see what really matters in my life and where it's like, the saying, choose your battles.
Mhm.
And 99.9% of the time, there's no reason to have a battle. There just really isn't. It's just not going to help in any way at all, whether it's through work or through home, friends, community.
Mhm.
What am I really doing? Anger gets me nowhere.
Right.
Mhm.
So taking that moment to step back from any anger or whatever overriding emotions are taking over, stepping back from that allows me to really find my own peace, because I find my peace in that when I don't have a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, it is such a simple intervention. Pause. It's like there's no steps to it. It's just one thing. You pause, and the practice is the issue, whether we practice it or not. But pause is such a simple, profound intervention that helps you gain insight. And the thing I said a minute ago, which I think is really important, it allows us a choice. We get to make a choice. That's different than control. A choice is something we have the ability to do, and pause helps me make choices in my life.
And I have also found that when I pause, I can answer more rationally, like I think Kristen was saying. And the other person always seems to be more receptive to what I have to say as well. So, then they can hear me without me being emotional. When I'm emotional, it becomes difficult.
Mhm. Yes, indeed. Anybody else? Because there's a lot of you that haven't shared, and I'm sure you have wonderful input.
I can share. I can't, can you hear me? I can't figure out how to get the camera and the speaker to work at the same time. I'm on my phone. So I've been listening to a lot of Maya Angelou lately, and she's talking about what strength there is in silence,
Hmm.
and that not every thought you have has to be spoken. And I really appreciate that. Um, I don't have too many knee jerk reactions anymore. I mean, I can get triggered, but um, I usually am able to stay relatively calm and then just go home and dissociate. But that's the way I work through my shit. Anyways, yeah, just she's got a lot of things on YouTube, and I think that that's very true, because once you can get control of your emotional reaction to the situation, um, the having being able to sit there in silence and just hold your own energy, your own truth, there is a lot of power in that, and it really disables people. Um, Kind of disarms them, and you don't have to be rude about it, or just when you're getting crazy, or as someone mentioned, replying to texts that or friends that activate you. Silence is super simple, right? Not everybody deserves a response from you. Not every person is worthy of your time. Your time is precious. And that's what I wanted to share on the topic.
Thank you. I absolutely think silence is an incredible experience for yourself again, because you get to be with yourself instead of defending yourself or chattering, and also I think it disarms people because then you're listening to, you're being in yourself and you're hearing more clearly. And I think that helps disarm people.
Yeah, now I remember I had one more point too, is that in the practice of the pause or silence, however, you are every time you're able to do that, you are rewiring your brain to function at a different level. And it's not based on a trigger reaction. That pause will get longer, that silence will get longer and more comfortable the more you practice it.
I love that.
And you feel better. You just do. It feels better.
And it's really hard not to engage with so many things, whether it's social media or the news or just people on the road. People pissed me off today. And I was like, well, okay, never mind. But yeah, and it's just an easier, as they say, easier, softer way to go through the day. And yeah, I believe there's a lot of power in silence. And it doesn't have to be brooding or what was the word that was used in the paragraph. It's not that silence. I think in silence, you don't feel small. You're not stuffing your words. I think she used a better phrase in there, but
Yeah.
I think there's a big difference in a comfortable, purposeful silence and also, hiding and being emotional and just, well, that's when the trauma comes in or is happening, is when you don't feel like you can say anything. And there's a big difference. So.
That made me think, Michelle, about how silence is used in a sales transaction. How silence can be used to really influence the conversation, and possibly, I don't know about you guys, but definitely for me, silence was used as a weapon. So silence is very powerful.
Julianne, could you say what you mean by that?
How silence can be used as a weapon?
Yeah. I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
I think, well, so this work, right? When we get grounded in ourselves, silence loses its power when somebody else uses it against us. But like for me growing up, I would get the silent treatment if my dad was mad, right? So that silence was used as a weapon to punish me.
Mm-hmm.
And how that manifests in adult life, and I could hear it in people's voices when I had my sales job, is like if I let there be silence, they would fill it, and they would fill it with all their anxious rambling. And that was like what they would divulge in that that space was information that somebody could easily take advantage of them. And some of them did get taken advantage of. So I guess that's what I meant by that. But now we're reclaiming our power, which is
Yes.
because now if you're on a phone call with a salesperson, they give you the silence. You're like, yeah, I'm thinking this is I am the customer. This is my silence. And if they want to use it against me, they can't.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
All right, you lovelies. Do you want me to call on you like a teacher?
There's so much in the
I
reading.
know.
I mean,
I
feel free to
know. 'Cause
like
each of
comment on
you are just so alive. I would like to hear from you. I don't want to have to.
I'll go. Please don't call on me.
All right. Pressure. The silence.
I'm Amanda, and I've been learning more about how to use a breath or a pause before responding. And it has been helpful in work for me because often when I get an email, I would think of it as something I'd done wrong and I would panic and I would like apologize or try and fix something when there wasn't even anything to fix, or it wasn't my fault, or that wasn't the situation. And so then I just dig myself deeper. So taking a breath and kind of figuring out what the actual facts were, as others have said, it lets you see things more clearly in interactions with others. So it's been helpful there. Or I'm struggling is like having a pause before engaging in like negative behaviors, because I will try and pause, but then like I'm very resistant to change. And so I guess I can see that. And that may be resistance, may be a conversation, like a different conversation, but it really kind of sees the argument I'm having in my head. And I don't usually win that argument, but at least I can see it, I guess.
Yeah, that's insight for sure. And the disordered negative behavior, whatever you want to call it, has been around a lot longer, and pause is new. It's not like just because you pause, you override the chatter. But the more you do practice it, the less the chatter has influence for sure. And thank you for sharing.
I also think like the more you practice and this is just from my experience, is that like Janice said, the less you will kind of make the disordered choice. Right. And someone, I can't remember who it was on the call, said that we're like, when we pause and we're making a different choice, we're creating those neural pathways, and that takes time and that takes repetition and all of that. It's like the example that comes to mind for me is my struggle with depression and wanting to just go to bed. It's like, okay, I do what and sometimes I'll go to bed. But the vast majority of time now, anyway, I don't. But does it happen sometimes? Yeah. I mean, that's just the truth. But but I think it took time to be able to do that. Anyway, I really liked your share, Amanda, so thank you. It made me think of that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing too. That's helpful to give me strength to keep pausing and arguing, and making some progress.
Yeah. And like,
it-
don't shame yourself if you make a mistake. right? Don't shame, just practice, right? It's like pause and practice. Right, Janice?
Yeah, and there's no shame involved. It's just a matter of choosing again and again, you know. And what you were saying, Liz, that I believe the reason it works for you to not go to bed when it calls to you is because it really feels better not to. And that's been your experience more accumulatively,
Yeah, yes.
which keeps perpetuating, not the sirens calling to you, come on,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes time, you guys. None of this, I mean, we wouldn't have to have this group if it was so easy. It's like, okay, just do this. It's a reminder and a reminder and a reminder, you know, that it's a practice. And practice is probably equal, well, I don't know, I don't know. It doesn't matter which is more, they're equally important. Practice is everything, and pause is part of the practice. Because if we don't practice, it's not going to shift. You know, we're going to stay stuck. Like it says, since our mind tend to get stuck in repetitive patterns easily, right? So that kind of speaks to it, you know?
Yeah. But on the bright side, we get to change the pattern,
Yeah, we are changing the pattern. Just
right? We are. And the pause lets us do that. It's one way to really do that.
you know, and it's like going back to self-compassion. It's like this process. We're we're like shifting a paradigm. It's like it's not just a little, oh, I'm going to rewire my brain. Well, yes, you are, but it's a paradigm shift. It's not like, it's like a circuit board that's full of all kinds of circuits, you know. It's not like, okay, I'm just going to rewire this one thing. I just want you guys to know this is a complex commitment to doing it because it is a paradigm shift. It's so easy to go back to what's comfortable, what's known, what's familiar. It's so easy, you know, and the pause helps you make, even for a minute, a split choice not to do it. And if you do, you do. It's all right. Next time you'll choose differently, maybe, you know. Does that make sense, you guys?
One thing in the reading that I really like is how she said that pausing like gives us the space to um or gives us like the chance of awakening, of getting to know ourselves
Mhm.
and and of like understanding our emotions. I always remember you saying, Janice, that feelings are messengers,
Mhm.
and they help us, and I love that. I always see them as like with wings. I don't know when I hear it's so bizarre,
Like
but
Harry Potter when the owl comes
yes.
flying.
But but that I think is really true because we get to know ourselves.
Right. The pause is mindfulness, it's awareness. That's what it
Yeah.
is. It's simply that. We just aren't aware often enough, and pause allows that awareness, you know, even if it's for a split second,
Mm-hmm.
still being mindful.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love about pause. It's awareness, mindfulness, it's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot of factors to it when you practice it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just the pause.
Mm-hmm.
It affects a lot of things. Does that make sense, you guys? Does this help? Like
Yeah,
really, go ahead.
I this is Kate, and I have this crazy example that happened yesterday that I don't know if it worked out too well. But so right now I'm a volunteer and I'm fostering a couple of cats, and the Humane Society is actually, I've been texting with me to communicate about, you know, how they're doing, their weights, like whatever. But the woman on the other end who's in charge of the foster communication is, been, I feel, making things very challenging, as far as making me drive an hour and a half for this and that, and telling, like, kind of like some threatening texts. And I wanted just to rip her a new one. And so I paused. I talked with a friend about like what they thought. I also tried to find my role in it and why I was so upset, and tried to find if there was, like, if I was interpreting her threatening, like, text wrongly. But I was really trying to find my, what you might have heard before, character defect in all this, because I just wanted to rip her a new one. So I paused, talked to a friend, couldn't figure it out. So actually drafted up a whole text that was kind of like mean, and then went into Chat GPT AI and tried, and then said, write this more nicely and eloquently. And I like tried all these things to try and figure out like how to respond. You know, I made it, and I felt like in the end, I had to talk to them about it. So I did, but it was a face to face that going wrong. I feel like I approached it well because of the pause, but I just wonder if there's some people who could have just let it go, meaning like just let pause and let it go. But I couldn't. It just made me more like the situation just festered, and I had to react, and I had to tell them how I felt. I felt threatened. I felt like, I mean, I've never been treated like, I've worked with a lot of volunteers, and I usually give them a lot of wiggle room and thanks because they're a big part of programs. And I was just so upset. So anyway, I'm starting to ramble at this point, but I'm just saying I paused, and I tried to find my role in it, and I tried to take the high road, and I just couldn't find it. But again, so it's going to take practice. So at least I paused. Now I'm driving, so I apologize. That's why my thing's off.
No.
Okay. Hopefully you heard me, and I'm going to stop
Kate,
now.
I just want to thank you for that, because to me, you paused, you looked at how to do it kindly. You still had a voice. You have a right to express yourself. Pause doesn't mean you don't get to express yourself. It just gives you a choice on either how to do it or to do it or not to do it, depending on how you feel about it. And to me, you felt very strongly, and you spoke the best you could in the best kind way you could. You know, it doesn't mean you can't have a voice, for sure. I think the voice is what's important for the pause, is how to be heard. And that's what you really wanted to do. It sounds like, Kate, you wanted to be heard.
Yeah, I like that interpretation. Thank you, Janice.
Yeah. I don't know. It just sounds like that. It's like, pause doesn't mean not to share what you're feeling or thinking. Just means try to, I say, commune with yourself. What really is it that you're trying to commune and share, and come from that? And 90% at least, people are going to hear it differently than if you don't pause and you just respond or react. I mean, that's why I think pause is so important. It's like I said, it's multifaceted. It's like tree roots. Pause is here, and then it filters in a lot of different ways. You know? What do you think? Yeah, I think it was a good one to reflect on and be reminded of.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we feel complete? Thumbs up? All
All
right.
right. Lots of thumbs up.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
next
you.
week. All
Thanks,
right.
Janice.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Bye.